Default rates are surprisingly low. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I trust you've all had a good weekend. Grab your stein of coffee. I don't actually have mine at the moment. I've got my metal camping cup, I guess. And let's have a look at this article from Mortgage Business discussing default rates. Now, there was a whole lot of, fear and concern in the media about the impending mortgage cliff. Those of us that locked in at a insanely low interest rate, and, now we're switching to variable with repayments going up by 50 to 60%, depending on how fortunate your low rate was. Now, there's a lot of fear that these people will be hit with a surprise and a shock. Although, I suspect a lot of them are going to be older, more established mortgage holders that locked in for some cheap gimmies because they realized 0.1% was a joke. So let's have a look at this. So we're not defaulting in massive numbers as people are hoping. While arrears rates are starting to tick up, the chief executive of the major bank, NAB, has said he is pleasantly surprised that they are still below pre-COVID-19 levels. So we haven't even returned to normal yet with regards to default rates on our mortgages. I think we're creeping up. The building sector is creeping up to going back to normal. Because, remember, they let people trade while insolvent. There was money everywhere. So when you see these drastic percentage changes in the media, such and such is up so many percent, and it makes great headlines. It gets the click. I click on it. I'm going, I have to see this. But then you look into it a bit more depth, and you say, okay, that's based on the absurdities of the last few years. So we're still not at pre-COVID-19 levels. Ross McKeon, the CEO of National Australia Bank, has acknowledged that while the rising rate environment to tackle high inflation has been hard for many Australians, and that the bank's well-being survey showed financial stress is growing, with 1 in 4 feeling worse off financially than just a year ago, customers are proving resilient. I think a lot of us are going to feel worse off, regardless of your financial position. If you have to spend more on everything day to day, you're going to feel worse off. Like, I'm getting used to these $2 coffees at 7-Eleven, guys. Speaking to the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Economics for its review of Australia's 4 major banks on Wednesday, the 12th, so a few days ago, he revealed that since interest rates started rising in May 22, NAB has contacted more than 500,000 customers, including 8,600 home loan customers who NAB thought were at most risk, but said that surprisingly only 14 wanted immediate help. Well, only 14 out of 8,600 people. So let's get out the old Excel here and do some sums. What do we have? 8,600. The ones most at risk are 14. Okay, do that divided by that. Oh, turn it into a percentage, not a dollar sign, Florian. Okay. So we're looking at. Can I make this bigger? Oh, look at the editing skills here. This is what you get with live recording. So 0.16279%. So almost 1/5%, guys, of the sample of 8,600 NAB customers that the bank said were at most risk needed help now. Now, that just means maybe reality hasn't hit yet, or maybe people are finding a way to get by. And we'll have to see in discretionary spending. I mean that's nothing, isn't it? Indeed, he said the numbers of customers in hardship or arrears, while growing, remains below pre-COVID-19 levels. He told the Standing Committee, "We have been pleasantly surprised at the resilience that is shown to date. We are starting to see an uptick on what we call our 30, 60, and 90 days arrear figures. But these levels, but the levels that we are seeing are still below the 10-year average and the levels we saw in what is still considered to be a normal year, 2019. The CEO said that he was very aware that the arrears levels may increase given that 55% of NAB borrowers who have super low fixed rates of around 2% are now rolling onto higher variable rates of between 5.5 and 6%, but added, we've been surprised how low the default rates have been. I think Aussies are preparing. I think people are preparing. It's not like you don't know when your mortgage is going to tick over. It's not like to be in the position to own a house, to have a mortgage, you've got to have your head screwed on. Okay? We're not like America, where you've got a pulse and at around the GFC you could get a home loan. He reiterated that the bank would therefore be watching arrears figures like a hawk, given they have started to rise, which he attributed to interest rate rises and all of the other prices that are going up on our customers, meaning they're having to make different choices. Sean Dooley, Group Chief Risk Officer, added that the bank was particularly looking at arrears of potentially vulnerability, such as borrowers on single incomes, for example, but noted while there was an increasing 30-day past due, a lot of it was curing itself as it rolls into 90 days past due. This is performing better than what we saw pre-COVID-19, and certainly better than the long-term average, he said. Mr. Dooley also noted that on average, NAB home loan customers are about 41 months ahead of schedule, largely as a result of people paying down more over the last 2 years when interest rates were at record low levels. We also see customers taking action to manage their own expenditures as well, to ensure they can deal with all the outgoings they have been facing. So we're seeing a pretty resilient customer base, actually, and it's held up, probably better than what we expected this time last year. Certainly, there's some prospect of further interest rates increases, and we continue to monitor and engage with our customers very closely to check in with them and see how they're going. And we've certainly got a very extensive analysis program to help customers who might be starting to feel some stress. I mean, that's nice. I get phone calls from my local bank trying to get me to borrow money. and then randoms like, it's because I've got my phone number on I think, LinkedIn, I think. That could be why. We expected it to be worse than it has actually played out. But that doesn't mean that it won't get worse. We're certainly seeing the pressures increase, and so we're monitoring it very closely. The major banks' executives reflected that small businesses were also showing resilience, with the CRO noting 90-day past due at March was below pre-pandemic levels at 56 BPS, but acknowledged that some areas were rising. This includes the construction, property, business services, and agricultural industries. Over the course of the hearing, the NAB leaders were also asked about their thoughts on the 3% serviceability buffer. And while NAB has recently announced a lower serviceability test for some borrowers, Mr. McEvan said NAB was supportive of having a buffer put in place through the regulator and having been supportive for that the whole way through. It's really around the customer that we're looking after and making sure they have the capability if interest rates do go up, so they can actually continue to make repayments. Elsewhere in the hearing, he also flagged there was a need for urgent action to address chronic undersupply of housing. Without more supply, demand will inevitably push prices up further, he said. I honestly agree right there. But it's not going to be a magic fix. You know, that's the issue, guys. You can't just instantly increase supply. It's going to take years to build. It's going to take years to get more land available. It's going to take years to build the infrastructure to put it in place. You need a cultural shift. We need to get yes in my backyard. We need to densify our cities. We'll see. Maybe when we're all old. Maybe when my beard has grown back. Oh, no, that'll probably be like a month now on my luck. I forget I have a beard. Respondents to our residential property survey say fast-track planning permission and development would be the single most effective way to reduce Australia's housing shortage. A coordinated effort by state and territory governments to introduce faster, simpler, and more consistent processes for approving land developments and residential construction will lift supply. More social and affordable housing is also needed. The financial sector, all levels of government, and developers have a role to play here. NAB wants to lead and has made available a further $6 billion for affordable and specialist housing by 2029. So let's have a chat about this one, guys. Well, there you go. Defaults are they're not staggering, they're not jumping up. They're still, I'm shocked that such a tiny amount of people needed help of the 8,600 people. Now, if that was a Finder survey, they couldn't use it because it wouldn't be negative enough to turn into an article for another business to stick their product on to the end of it. So, I mean, there you go. I've got another article where a journalist has found, properties that are, rushing to default sale, banks possessed, and we'll look at that in another video. But they've listed out all the properties. It's like in 3 states, all the properties can be listed in that article. So that just shows you. Well, we'll have to see, guys. I mean, the calls for more housing supply, this is nothing new here. But the problem is you need state, federal, and local council all working together. All 3 levels of government have to work. They need to make it faster and easier for people to build. And then you've got to deal with the not in my backyard crowd. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. Thanks for watching. Check out HeiseBim or Heise Does if you enjoy my other content. And if you're a fan and want to support the channel, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call me if you need an architect. Take care, have a great day, and enjoy what is left of your weekend. And I'm going to take the rest of the night off and go play some Skyrim. Good old, it's not that old. It's an old game now, yeah.